Hey folks, we've got a little bit more work to do before I can call it a finished day. The new project system is working, but only when you test it a little bit. I want to try to push it in certain ways and see if it breaks in any direction. But first, we're going to convert my entire project file over to the new system. We only converted a little bit of it this morning, so that I could get it up and running. So I'm going to finish that, and then we'll see what else we can do to try to find any issues with it and make sure we leave it in a solid position. Let's see. Get rid of that. All right. So here we have on the left the old project file, and then on the right but you can see it's all commented out, and then on the right we have its current setup, right? Okay. That's not real. This isn't real. This isn't real. Yeah. Delix asks, what did I eat? I had a veggie sandwich. Cucumbers, tomatoes, lettuce, and mayonnaise. And then I think I had cheese on it. I can't remember what kind of cheese, actually. Must have been provolone. And then I got a little caught up reading some stuff. Anyway. Yeah, okay. So there we have build x64, build site. And we get the rest of these recreated. Yeah, I'll do it by just copying one of these and going like that. So we're going to have build string, in Windows that'll be build string.bat, and the other two build string.sh, and that does go to the footer panel. That seems weird. Oh well. I guess that's right. Yeah. So there's build string. Build x86 will be the next one. PLB13. I don't know what you I don't know to which you are referring when you say sorry. Did something happen? Are you leaving? Is that what this is? And let's see, that does, yep, those, okay. and this should go to compilation. Oh, I didn't see it. Okay. Can you delete posts, or did it like did it get moderated? It might have been like an Intabot automatically all moderated it for some reason. Metadata. Run regression tests. I'm not going to preserve that one for now. Build tests I won't reserve. Generate tests I won't reserve. Package I will. I will preserve that one. I'm not keeping those tests because the test system's a little defunct. After putting 2 or 3 4coder Fridays into it, I decided that I needed to back off because it's not quite right. Even though I thought it was going to be awesome. Alright. So I think that's everything that I want to move over. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, none of these have any commands that that I need. I have to finish filling in all of these though. Fkey command 4. Build x86. Fkey command 5. Build metadata. 6, 7, and 8, I'm not keeping those. Those aren't real. F12 is package. So there we go. There's my new project file. I'm going to make the bold move now of retiring all the old project file. So it's a little bit longer, which I guess we could have expected. It takes a little bit more to specify the same number of extensions here. And we have to add this blacklist thing, and we have to add this load path, which was never there before. And these are a few lines longer each. It used to be like 1, 2, 3 for each of these, right? 3 lines, but now there's like 2 more lines in there because we added this name, and this part here is shared, so it gets sorted a little differently. It does make the lines shorter, which is an advantage, because these used to be like you'd have this and this, and then this and this and this all lined up, and they kind of often wrap. So that's actually, I think, much better in my opinion, at least. I don't mind making it longer this way if it means it has a much better structure in terms of what's duplicated out where, and how clearly named things are. Like now I can see footer panel equals true instead of just true true. All kinds of advantages. So I think if we run that, Delix asks, sorry for the unrelated question. Oh, that's not a part of the question. I was curious if you depended on Xlib or anything for 4coder's Linux builds, or did you interact with X11 from scratch? So I don't think I use Xlib. I'm not sure why, I can't remember. It's been actually a while since I looked at any of the Linux code. So why don't we... Let's see if I can remember. Why don't we take a quick look? Did it not go recursive? Uh-oh. It's not going recursive. Alright, we have to investigate that. But, if we come in here and we're looking for Linux, so what we have here includes X11. Okay, yeah, so it's what I sort of remembered. So yeah, you can see right here the things I'm linking to, if that helps. Inzobot says owls. Okay, yeah, sure. Seems right. So anyway, yeah, I guess I'm not using Xlib. So the truth is, though, I only wrote about a third of the code in the Linux layer. The first round of it was contributed by Casey. Actually, he didn't like sit down and work on it. He just sent me some starter code that did the like initial OpenGL initialization. And from there, I built out like the basic core structure. I stubbed out a bunch of functions, started implementing the ones I knew how to do, like the threading and the file handling and stuff. And then I had Alex Baines, aka insofar as write a lot of the stuff like the input handling. He did some fixes for the OpenGL stuff to make it like more universal. He did, I think he did the file change notifications, all the input stuff, all the, was there something else? I'm sure he worked on some other stuff. I'm sure he did. I know he, for about 6 months or a year or so, he just sort of would upgrade the Linux layer whenever I made a change. So that was really helpful. Then you can see he made some notes that I don't think these are directly about his work on Linux, or on 4coder, but he had done a number of systems for like input and Oh, he did like the uh, what's the thing where you have e-poll, like the polling thing where you synchronize various asynchronous events into a single location where you can pull it from. He did a lot of cool stuff with that. That basically, yeah, and the he scripted up a little pop-up window thing too. Yeah, he's got. Unfortunately, he doesn't post all the time because he's pretty good. He posts more because it's useful stuff. But I visit the site frequently for where is? I never remember if there's actually a way to click to it, but you can come over here and type Insobot schedule, and what you get is this schedule of streams. Now, most of them are just streams telling you when people were live. These like stripey ones, and that's like all of them nowadays, are just here's times when people were live. But you can see right here, I have my regularly scheduled 4coder Friday, and then there's Handmade Heroes on Saturday and Sunday. And if more people put in these pre-scheduled ones, you'd be able to actually use the calendar for something. But yeah, it's kind of neat. Alright, so let's try something like this. Uh-oh. So that was a good experiment. I have no idea what's gone wrong here. Alright, one thing at a time. So the first bug we discovered was it doesn't recurse. So what we're going to do is start from here, where we try to open all project files and work forward or backwards as we zoom in on what the problem is. So, how many load paths do you have? You have one. You grab that load path. What does it say? It says he's recursive and relative. So the problem didn't happen before now. It's happening after now. We've got the right data right now. Okay, we have a flag. Oh, there's the problem. Open all file flag recursive. I know what happened. Yep, I was showing someone how to, I think it was UPLB13, I was showing you how to use the enum filler, and I accidentally filled it to a normal enum instead of a flag enum when we were done. Alright. Load the project again. Super slow. I gotta stop being so horrible at everything and get that to work better. Geez, we want to see if we have build.cpp now. Okay, so it did recurse. That's still a crash. Okay, we'll take a look at that next. So, project commands, exec project fkey command. This is where it's, well, it's not crashing here, it's crashing in some crazy location, but it's triggered when I hit F12 in order to get there, which means it's running through that function probably first. We'll find out. Boom, here we go. How you causing crashes? That's what I need to know. So we're going to command index 11, or fkey index 11, that's right, F12 minus 1, 11 index, gives us a 5, and there are 6 commands, so that goes forward. We get an fkey. What is the fkey? What does the fkey say? Okay. The command is package bat. Yeah, that looks like the right data. So again, the problem was not before now, it's after now. Save all dirty buffers. That went through without a hitch. Buffer. Ooh. Weird. Okay. Enemy mouse. Is your goal to support complex script fonts such as Arabic beyond simply Unicode, but also ligatures and all of that? So yeah, right now the 4coder font system, it does no kerning, it does no ligatures, it just does left to right layout with variable with characters. So I know everything it takes now. Like I haven't implemented a ligature system before. Or a kerning system, for reals at least. But it's not out of the question that I could implement one. The harder part is if I do, how does that interact with some of the other stuff 4coder has to do, like line wrapping? Like if line wrapping didn't have to be programmable, it would be different. I could just do it. But to make a programmable line wrapper that also has like that kind of stuff going on, like left to right, right to left, mixed text, and ligatures and stuff, and kerning and stuff like that. Well, kerning and ligatures I could support without hugely affecting my programmable wrapping, actually. It would require a lot more horsepower or a lot more smarts going into the font system than what I've put in so far, but it should be doable. But what about mixing right to left and left to right? How would that even work? You know, I wouldn't be able to do that yet because I have not done a right to left layout system before. I would need to do something that does mix left to right, right to left layout in a separate project before I could think about whether it's possible to add here. So in conclusion, I think without messing up the wrapping, I could do anything up to but not including Arabic script, basically. I have the know-how to get everything but the right to left stuff done, so I'd have to, when I do a mini 4coder, I will maybe try that out and see. Weird, okay, hold on. So we didn't hit the breakpoint that time. Oh, I know what this is. Okay. It's not a bug. It's not a bug. So F12 causes the debugger to break. Internal static void. Do you plan on building a debugger into 4coder? Not building it into 4coder. I plan on setting up basically a UI API. It's complicated. Let me show you the layers. Not Paint. Milton. Okay. So, if you're familiar with the three sort of standard, like the layers that 4coder has already, I'm going to group those together. So that's like a platform layer, core layer, and then the custom layer, right? Now, inside the custom layer, anything that's basically the way I interpret layers is, I mean, these are all cleanly stacked layers. You could easily imagine a situation where your layers get a little bit more DAG-like, right? Or whatever. But at least in the 4coder structure, have been imagining that never having to be the case. So each layer just has a layer above it and below it, or maybe only one. So like the platform layer is the bottom, or I guess the top. It's the central thing that has the entry point and runs. Nothing underneath it, and then it's yeah, I should just change the order of these so that I can say underneath and above and be correct. So platform layer, core layer, custom layer. So the plan is that at some point there will be probably 2 more layers. The custom layer, each layer becomes more optional as you go up. So the custom layer is required, but you can customize it. And then the thing I would build on top of that would be a UI framework thing. So the way that would work is this would have the primitives for doing some very basic stuff, right? And then this would be the thing that provides a full API for laying out and controlling a UI that isn't actually provided here by the primitives. And then in combination with this, I would basically write not really a layer, but more like, I don't know what you want to call it, a API, I guess, but it's sort of a reverse API in the sense that I would build a thing that uses this UI layer to do the front end of a debugger and then provides various hooks that if you implement all of them, you have your debugger. So then this would expose some, like, if you implement this thing here, right, with your debugger, backend, right, then you have it working. So there'd never be a debugger built in, but rather a sort of target API that if your debugger can be hooked up to that API, then you can debug in 4coder. That's the plan. Yeah. Yep. The reason for doing it that way is, first of all, it lets you switch out the debugger, and second of all, it allows me to continue to iterate on everything else without having to sync up with a debugger project. Like, I don't have to find someone who's working on a debugger and spend a lot of time working with them on it. I'm not sure if you could do this with MSVC. They don't really provide like a callable thing. Right. You'd probably have better luck trying to turn 4coder into a plugin into Visual Studio than the other way around. Alright, so that works. It runs F12 just fine. Let's go looking for things to break. I will be putting the rest of that off till next time. And probably some of this stuff will happen off stream as well. So you're done. So we're going to get that. Print There we go. Alright, so that's all the things we're going to check off today. I'm going to try to spend a little bit of time looking for ways to break the project system now, and then we can call it a day. So, things that could go wrong that we're not doing right now. Well, let's start by seeing if the blacklist works fully and correctly. Alright. Load project. And then readme. No, it still brought up the readme.txt. That's interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. Okay, let's take a look. Why did it fail to skip readme.txt? Match in pattern. Does it not work when there are no wildcards? What's going on? Let's take a look at 131. Info file name 0 equals capital R. Run. Come on. There we go. Our blacklist is 0. Blacklist. Blacklist pattern array is 0. Uh-oh. So the real pattern is working, but the other pattern array isn't working. Let's take a look. Blacklist pattern array. Spelled that correctly, right? That goes into the blacklist pattern array. fails. Let's go ahead. Wait, did I not deep copy it? There it is. Oops. Project file pattern array source. Project file pattern array destination. I'll give you a new line, that's fine. Boop. Boop. Project pattern array dot can become source arrow, and result dot pattern array dot can become dest arrow. And then you here you can become project deep copy pattern array arena project pattern array result pattern array, and then same thing again with the blacklist pattern arrays. Right, so we'll say return false, return false, return true, and then if that fails, then return result. If that fails, then return result. Oops. Source array, dest array. Whoops, you get out of here. Source array. Sorcery, sorcery, source array. Source array. Just gonna do some source array. There we go. Perfect. Continue. Alright, there we go. What else could we possibly have gotten wrong? We haven't got any patterns up there that are more complicated. Let's say we don't allow for text, but we do allow for the word read, like that. Then what happens? I didn't actually need to rebuild. This isn't really code. Oopsie. Load project. Now the README is open, but it's the only text file that's open. Alright. Alright, I'm convinced. So that stuff works. What happens if I put something in that's got the wrong type? Alright. Let's suppose I reorder this, first of all. Don't rebuild the friggin'... Ugh. I just have to save, not rebuild. So suppose that the one I want is not the first one in the list. Do I still find it? Cool. Okay. What if it's the third one in the list? Do I find that one? I built again. Why did I do that again? I didn't even realize it was a mistake until halfway through that time. Yikes. Okay. Okay, that's still working. What if I put something that's the wrong type in before it? Don't rebuild, just save and then run it again. Okay, that went too fast. Yeah. So what was that? I added that. Okay, load paths. Where do I bring that shit in? Okay. So this is on the top level. We first get that compound. If we don't find a compound, we break. Alright, so what we actually want is something more like, if we don't find a compound, then config compound any member or just has member parsed compound that thing I no output config compound member. It's in the config. Okay, config compound member. So suppose I just want to say evaluate R value. So when I say evaluate R value, I tell you what type I'm looking for, and if the type I'm looking for does not match the type I find, I return false. But what if I want let's take a look. Where does this get defined? Right here. There we go. We can use type count. So if it's a no type, then success is true anyway, just because we found yeah, interesting. So if we find one and we are not interested in its type and we're just checking if it exists, we'll just do that. Alright, so I think that'll do it. Yeah, that should let us build the thing we need to build. So basically, let me just do this for both of these right now. Config, I was doing a compound has member. Yeah, config has var is the one I want here. So config string var name subscript, and we don't need type, we don't need var out. We're just going to do return config var config var name subscript config r value type, no output. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing down here. Config compound var, wait, not like that. Compound has member config compound var name index, there is no output, index config compound member config compound var name index, no type, no output. Okay. That we do need to rebuild for. Whoops. Has member we need a char star version of that because I've never gone ahead and wrote the right metaprogramming system for this situation. make string slowly, boom. Has member, one of these, char star that thing, one of these things right there, boom boom, boom boom, boom boom, make string slowly var name, index. Okay. So the idea is now, yeah, now just because we hit something of the wrong type doesn't mean we stop. If we hit something of the wrong type in the array, we just ignore it, but we can still find the thing afterwards and see if it matches what we're looking for. Yeah, cool. Alright. Anything else we can do along those lines? Well, there's another thing that does that matching search thing, so I probably got this one wrong too. Where's the other case where I ask for an operating system? Right here. Yeah, so if it doesn't find a compound, it breaks. Instead, we're going to say, well, where's that continue I was just looking at? This is a little bit inefficient as it does the same query twice. Really what you'd like to be able to do is to do a query and have it return to you a descriptor and then just query that descriptor in fixed time. So write underlying config extractor with intention to prevent double queries from doing whole search. Alright, so interesting. Okay. Actually, that's different. So this is an array. Oh, wow. I also have this one. And this one. It's a pattern that comes up a lot, isn't it? Okay, this will be the last thing we do tonight. So what we're going to want to do is first I'm going to put on some music so I can get a proper flow happening. I'm going to give you some context so that you understand what it is I'm going to be working on. And then I'm going to go silent and knock it out. Not in that order. I'll put the music on after the context. So here's the basic concept. We have one... these are actually same code paths. We have one code path here, one code path for this array here, one code path for this array here, right? And what do all these have in common? Also one here, and one here. These are all places where I have a compound that is a variable width array of things that are supposed to be the same type, right? And I have to just iterate through it to find out how long it is, and then I can go back and actually use it. And that wouldn't be a problem at all, except that the procedures I've set up for implementing it make it kind of verbose to implement it. In particular, I have to do like this, iterate across it once to get a count, and along the way figure out the count by checking whether I find the thing, and if not, is there a member there, and so on. And then I would have to do more work than I'm even doing to really get it right, because all of these should not be counted in the count, even though we need to iterate past them. So we would need an iterator and a counter separately, and only increment the counter when this check passes. But even if this one, if it fails and this one passes, don't increment it, but keep going, right? It's like more complicated than what I've done, and I've got it in like 3 or 4 places where I sort of hand-coded one of these counters, when really what I needed was something more complicated in all of those locations. The other thing is that well, I mean, the fact that I'm doing 2 passes over it is not necessarily something I want to fix right now. There is a way where I don't have to do 2 passes over it. And yeah, like I said when we first did the 2 passes thing, the way to get past that is, instead of building these as arrays, to build them as linked lists. Because then you don't need to allocate them with the correct size right off the bat. You know, I take that back. There's another way I could do it without having to do linked lists, I think. Well, no, that's not really true, because I need the arena down here too, and so I either need to know the count right off the bat, or I need to be able to not make them contiguous perfectly and have little bubbles of other things sticking in between them. So if I wanted to get rid of double iteration, I would switch to linked lists, or the other thing I could do is build a data structure where I iterate it, I get a count, and I build the thing that is the reference point to all those things, and then I can just iterate that reference list, which would be faster than doing the queries a second time. But if I have to handle all of this one step at a time, which I do, being human, then this is the order we're going to do things in to wrap this up. We're going to have a get typed array count type thing, and then we're going to have a return descriptor for query granular layer. Then I will make a judgment call, but the next thing to do after that would be build reference list there we go. So this one is first because it gives us correctness, which we need. Once we have that, this one is a speed, which will be helpful, and it's nice to get that out of the way now. If we get both of those done, then this will be more speed and also robustness actually, which should be nice too. Now all of these would be much easier, well except for this one. These two will be much easier if I have metaprogramming to back me up, but I don't because I haven't been using metaprogramming to generate this stuff. So I may go back and write a one-time program for generating these. So we'll get to do a little metaprogramming for those if I can do them both. Which, yeah, we'll see. There's like this is like in two parts, and one of them is metaprogramming, the other one isn't. So the other one that I like a judgment call on is shift existing queries to use the descriptor. Okay. PLB13, you will see when we get there. I'm going to put on some music, and I will not check in with you guys again until I have completed the first checkbox. Okay. Alright, so we're getting there. So, Alright, so that should have done it. Uh, music in the chat, keeping everyone interested in, I don't know, hanging out in my chat, which is good, I guess. I don't know. Let's take a quick peek at this, see how it works. Wait, how am I going to know if it works when I haven't added any pathologies to the project file? I'm still listening to the same ABBA mix that I was on earlier. I don't exactly understand why, but on Wednesday this week, actually, I discovered that something about this particular mix, at least for the last few days, just puts my brain in the right frame of mind to be super hyperactive and get a lot of programming done. It only works for about 3 hours, and after that I'm done. Like I can't get hyper again for the rest of the day. But yeah, basically I get about 3 hours out of just playing it. Now the nice thing about an ABBA like playlist that you don't get with a lot of bands is that they've got so many great songs that you don't have to like just repeat the 3 good ones, right? If I were to pick any other band that people say is like a good band, it's like, yeah, they've got some really interesting stuff, but do you really want to listen to that when you're trying to program? Like at least for me, I want like some kind of high-paced stuff to keep me moving, not something that like slows down and gets like complicated and dense. And somehow ABBA manages to keep the songs light feeling at a certain level, and also still very enjoyable and non-repetitive, and they just have a bunch of the songs that are in a good enough category that you don't mind hearing them, that it doesn't even get old. So yeah, it's a weird trick, for me at least. But so let's now switch our attention to we need to add problems all over the place and see which things stop working. So package, we will obscure package by putting in a boolean right here. We will obscure this build.bat command by putting in an erroneous build.bat right there. We will see. We will screw up the thing that loads the code at all by putting in a 45 right here, and just to double up and make it tricky, we'll put in a 42 right there. Package build, we'll say give me my C files and nothing else. So if I only see C files, that worked and that failed. If I see none of them, that one failed, and maybe this one also failed, and we'll have to solve them in sequence to find out. We've kind of already tested this one, and I don't want to have 3 levels of things that could be going wrong all at once. That'll be drive me crazy. So we'll get those working and then mess with this one again. Yeah, okay, that should do the trick. Now, PLB13 asks why I haven't just tossed random gibberish in there to break the project file more. I want it to break in ways. I want to be able to control the ways in which I expect. Basically, any pathology I add that I'm testing right now, I'm trying to add things that I have a theory how it will look if they fail and how it will look if it works, so that I can tell which ones have problems still. Okay, so we didn't get the files. We didn't get any files. Okay. Did I get build.bat? I did not get build.bat. I did not get package. Okay, so they've all failed. Every single one of them. Let's start with the loading of the files. Load paths. Put the music back on. Okay. Okay. That's right. Okay, so we got a count of 6. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're looking for options. Oh. What just happened there? This is wrong. This is wrong. This should be source. Oops. Alright, we're looking for 6 of these things. We grab one. And now we're going... well, we got a 2 already. That should be command set. There we go. I guess I didn't hit enter. That was weird. Hey, there's one. Okay. Still didn't load files, but hey, we've got the build command now. We have build site. Do I have package? I don't have... oh, I have package. Great. Alright, so those ones are working. This and this are both getting skipped. But why aren't we loading this path correctly? Because we know we have it. Let's take a look. That needs to be a 3. Line 788, we need to make that into a 3. It's not hitting us this time, but that could be a bug under certain circumstances. Yeah, that looks right. Is it, so is our filter? No, that's right. The whitelist looks fine, the blacklist looks fine, the filter looks fine. All the data is coming in looking right, which is weird. Okay, so that's actually not working. That should have more in it. But are you telling me I don't have any .c files, or what? Okay, there's an easier way to find out. Didn't need to rebuild. Okay, so now it's getting C files and CPP files. Didn't need to rebuild. Okay. So we're not skipping past this 45 correctly. Why is that? This code path here. Is this being treated as code right now? It is. I forgot about this. Apparently, if the file is named to-do.txt, it gets treated as code for reasons I can't remember. Weird. I think I probably did that so that some people could get like to-do list auto indentation kinds of things, maybe. Alright. Alright, I can pause my music, give it a minute to see if there's anything in the chat. Looks like it's mostly just ABBA related comments, which is very appropriate. Yes, the to-do list has syntax highlighting and weirdness in it. I just saw that, yeah. So that took a little bit more out of me than I expected, just getting that one step done. I think I could do these parts. I mean, we have correctness now, right? So, if I do any more, I really want to take a break first, because we're already at the point that it's like over an hour and a half, more like approaching 2 hours if I do another stage of this. Plus this next thing is a big metaprogramming thing. I'm still waiting for, AnyMouse says, I'm still waiting for comments to leave indentation as it was when created. Are you talking about virtual whitespace? Or the textual level indenter? Because I'm pretty sure that the textual level indenter does everything it can now for comments. Unless I'm misunderstanding. Because you can do something like this, right? And then if you do that, it go like this and indent it. You can see it kept them like that. So yeah, with virtual whitespace, that's not that's not really that's not really in the cards anytime soon, because the virtual whitespace thing really needs the new engine to be properly still collapses comments. What is collapses comments? If you're talking about the audio indentation in virtual whitespace, because like here in virtual whitespace land, you can't insert a space there, because even though you can insert it, it doesn't know that it means anything. Like this, it does actually like understand how to indent that. Oops, that time I messed it up because I did it in a weird order, didn't I? Huh. Well, that's because it's lining everything up to a parenthesis, which screws everything up. Interesting. Um, yeah, so the reason virtual white space is a little bit clunky right now and can't very easily be changed is because um, it doesn't really have any concept of checking the indentation at the textual level. It has to be able to figure it out semantically, basically, using tokens, and the tokens are lacking that white space information. I could rewrite it to drop down to the space to the actual text and figure out the indentation of the comment, and then get it right. Except that doing so is going to make an already way too complicated system even worse. So I'm just not doing it until I get to the new engine. In the new engine, virtual whitespace will be it'll be so much easier to manipulate and think about new algorithms for it. But right now, the algorithm that controls virtual whitespace is it's sort of like the height of complexity, such that any tinkering with it pretty much invariably has ripple effects that take a long time to work out back to working again. So I just don't make changes to it very much. In the new version, in like the new build, not the next build, but in the next, like in the 4.1x engine, because the virtual whitespace will be handled more as just a series of sort of a pipeline of transformations, and virtual whitespace is in that pipeline, or it is one of the byproducts of that pipeline, I should say. It will be much easier to reason about, and so I'm planning on doing things like having the ability to query, hey, what was the text level indentation of this line, and then preserve that when appropriate, like in comments. Another thing it'll be able to do is it's going to have, like right now, it always respects hard line breaks. At some point, there'll be a thing that's like actually virtualize the line breaks as well, and then it'll put in soft line breaks at all these points and instead, and kind of just be it'll be like having like a formatter run on your code perpetually all the time, which is kind of where this is supposed to actually go. But it kind of, I hit a dead end the first time I worked on it, because I didn't really have any concept before I started virtual whitespace of how to break down an algorithm into simpler stages. Like, I knew how to build large systems, but it's very different from building a large system when you're conceiving of a thing as an algorithm, right? You're thinking, here's the process of virtual whitespace, here are the components of it. You build that whole thing up, and then you realize, oh, that's super complicated the way I wrote it, and what I really needed to do was to treat that thing that was a concept in my head for an algorithm as a system, but I treated it as a single algorithm, and so now I have one very complicated thing that I didn't break down properly. And there's no real way to make it break down properly without addressing the internal engine stuff. So, yeah, yep. Okay, we're going to do this metaprogramming. Metaprogramming is a lot of fun once you get into it, so I'm not too worried about it being a little tiring. So basically, here's what we need to metaprogram. Right, so here's basically where you can see where I want to meta-generate some stuff. A meta-generator for some stuff. Strings are a bit complex. We'll have to think about that part, but so the basic notion is I have a few types, bools, ints, unsigned ints, which are also just ints but different, strings in a couple of forms, characters, and then compounds. And for each of them, I end up having to handwrite two different procedures, one that takes the string struct and one that takes the C string and just converts it up and calls the other one, and then all of those call to the base system that just does the R value evaluation. And yeah, that's pretty close to what I want anyway. And that means that, for instance, this typed array down here, right now I am calling it by passing in the type. Now, what I really want to do is, instead of having the user pass in a type name thing, like a type enum, and then a void pointer, I want to eliminate this, bake the name of the type into a bunch of procedures, and then set the type of the pointer, like these ones do, to actually be something like that indicates what thing you're expecting, so that there's type like checking going on there, right? But I don't really want to write all this out by hand again. Luckily there's not like a string duplication thing with two different types of string parameter here, but it has some other things like the string getters, for instance. This string getter doesn't reflect the fact that there's like idea of a placed string, and the other one does have that idea up there at the top. This one we have strings and placed strings. And so like there's a lot of things where a concept shows up in one spot and it doesn't automatically show up in another spot where it is sort of parallelly belongs there. So this is like perfectly situated to become a metaprogramming problem. First, I'm just going to organize a little bit so that things which are going to need to be handwritten are all together. Okay. So now we have a has, and then a bool, int, uint. Right, okay, so I have an idea of what we're looking at here. Let's go over to one-time code and load that project right there. One-time code. We're not doing any of these things today. Today we are doing print config queries. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Oops, here we go. So now what I want to deal with is basically we have so there's this idea if it has a string parameter, then that has to change out. Yeah, okay. Bool int uint again, string, it doesn't have the other string things. Char compound. And And this one here does not have a string parameter. Yeah, so these are both handwritten. But we want to generate a bunch of specialized versions of these. Okay. And they have 0 string parameters, but they still do those types, and this one has output. Yeah, okay, this is pretty interesting. So, we have the following concepts. First of all, we have types. Our types include, well, basically it's the config types, so let's just grab those. Yeah, we'll leave it like that for now. The duplication of that code is a little annoying to me, but this is enough of a throwaway thing that I'll just I'll live with it for now. The fully right thing to do would be to make an X list of those. I probably should actually do that anyway. So you know what? No, we're going to do it correctly. So our value type list L value Boolean, integer, float, string, character, compound, count. Yep, that'll be better. Okay. Comma. Okay. So that'll give me all those, and then I can do a count right there. Alright, so the other thing we have is if I come over here, we have all these operations. So okay. Integer makes integer either way. String compound placed string, please. Placed string. Okay, so here are the things that are involved in an operation. There is yep, okay. So we're going to have underlying type, string parameter count, we're going to have a is macro option. Honestly, we won't do that. We're just going to make that macro a handwritten element of this. So I'll take that and just stick it up here. Later, Delix. Thanks for hanging out. Let's see. String parameter count. How many string parameters we have? Extra parameters, code before, code after, yeah, this is a little bit tricky. Hey there, I have no idea how to pronounce your name. But hello. Yeah, go for it. Ask a question. Yeah, we'll keep it to those two just to auto-generate the things we already have first and then add more. But I think that's the way we want to do it. Not sure yet. Later, PLB13. I'm not finishing this. I'm not done with the stream room at the moment. I'm just they're headed out because I've been going for all day and it's getting kind of long in the tooth here. As I try to set up this meta programming thing. I'm feeling a little uneasy about some of these details. This is a little bit of a tricky one. And a lot of it is very repetitive and should be not so bad. But, you know. Yeah. Yep, okay, that will work. That will work. So we're not going to say we have the op class here. These are just operations. So the Handmade Network, well, the question is, was the Handmade Network built by the Handmade Hero people? I'm not sure exactly what you mean. The guy who works on Handmade Hero is Casey Muratori. He does Handmade Hero, and that's just one of the projects on the Handmade Network. It was the project that inspired the network, like, into existence, and then a bunch of other people who were following that series created the Handmade Network website, and they're a separate entity. And they host all kinds of projects, and Handmade Hero is just one of the projects they host. Now, where is my GitHub? GitHub 4th dimension, I believe. Yeah, so here's my GitHub. Just sort of random nonsense on here. Hope you got that. It's 4th dash dimension with a T, if you missed it. Type names, okay. Alright, so there. That's better. Okay. So I have a set of operations that I want to create. If I'm lucky, I think I can just do this. Alright, now for each one I have to set what type it is. So the first one is, let's see, bool var. Okay, so the first one is actually this has, and that will go like this. No type is the type. String parameter count, one string parameter. Proc name has. Has var. So yeah, what we'll have to do is throw in a bool 32 includes output. Includes output false. Put that right there. Has extra parameters, none. Oh, you know what? Yeah, what we actually want is just output name, and that can be zeroed if we don't want an output, right? Or output type. So it has no output type, extra parameters, none, code before, none, code after none. Alright, the next one is a boolean. Now you know what, this idea of has string or string parameter count is placed in the wrong spot here. Whether or not it has a string parameter doesn't really have to do with what we're setting up here. That has more to do with the class. So I think that the class actually just wants to be like this, and we'll say that every op class has a name, a string parameter count, config op class list m will go like this. We have config var config var It's a little tricky. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say that we're just going to make an enum of these, and most of it will have to be specified out with the enum, but we can get this part right. So config var and config or compound member both have one string parameter. Internal static void asks, how old are you? I'm 22. Halfway to 23 at this point. Okay. So, this one is a Boolean query. It asks for a bool, and it has an out type of bool32. We'll do it this way. No extra parameters, no before, no after. We have one for integer. Call it int. int32t, no before, no after. uint32t. Also an integer uint. Okay, then we can ask for a string. Oops. Yeah, string. And the type is string. And no extras for that one either. And then we get to one of the weird ones, a placed string, which takes in a type of string, but it also takes in char space and int32 space size. And we're going to want to get a little bit wild here. So var out equals make string cap space 0 space size string stir equals that then it does, okay. So that is that and that. That changes who goes there, doesn't it? Yeah, that doesn't work. Okay, so we're going to actually have nothing before, but afterwards we're going to do if result. Still don't know how to pronounce your name, but because 3coder is no good. Yeah, I'm happy to answer your question. I wish I knew how to pronounce your name to give you credit for the question, but so-and-so on the chat is asking, why are you building 4coder? Given that there are already kind of good editors out there, what makes this one any better? So, I mean, the most important part of it is to have an editor that lets you customize it using the style of coding that I'm familiar with. That's the reason that I like it the most, and a lot of people who use it probably, I think, would acknowledge that the reason they like it most is because it lets them customize using a C or C++ style of like customization layer, rather than having like eLisp or some other scripting system, like the Vim scripts and, you know, in things like Sublime and Notepad++ and whatnot, where you customize by like lots and lots of configurations and plugins. It's just a different way to be able to customize that works really well for some people. Yeah, besides that, it's not really competitive on any other front, except that it is at least as good as them on all the basics, right? It gets all the basics at least as good as the others do, and it has that feature which is an edge for some people. Yeah, so that's the other thing. Enemy Mouse points out one detail that's nice about 4coder, which is that it has this little marker, like the mark is shown. In the Emacs style, the mark isn't actually shown. You just have to remember where you've placed it, and it's a bit weird. And that's not a particularly big deal, I think, to everyone, but it's things like that that build up over time that it's all been designed carefully to make as much sense as possible. So like the multi-stage clipboard, the project system that we're working on right now, these kinds of things that, you know, the people who like 4coder just like it because it's got all the details sort of carefully planned. Of course, not everyone loves the cursor mark thing. Some people wish we had like Sublime style multi-cursor kinds of things, which are a very different kind of system in a lot of ways. I think I could make a multi-cursor that also has marks and cursors at other times. There's no reason you couldn't have both. It's just a different approach to the way things should work when you have that, like, you know, click and drag style selection. Or like hold shift and move to the left kind of thing. Anyway, so the idea here is we're basically taking this and saying, alright, we'll do this still, but we're going to change the way we're doing it a little bit to say, put this off and put this off. Grab this with var out the way it normally works, and then stuff into the string whatever we got from var out, and then set up that and then copy, and that should be fine. So how would I go about implementing and designing a multi-cursors thing? There's a number of, I actually haven't totally figured that out because there's a number of interesting concerns that go into that. I guess the most important thing is that, I would just keep iterating on it until I felt like I simultaneously had the feature set that was the right amount of orthogonal and convenient to the existing features, and then implemented in such a way that it will not become a major burden to add future. Like, basically you want to avoid features that once you've added them they make other features harder to add, and that's not very easy to predict when you're doing something that will have that effect. But you can build up an intuition for it, and I feel like I just spent enough time with the code to understand whether it's got that problem or not. I don't know, I can't get more specific than that because I still need to do the process and find out what works and what doesn't for that particular problem. Okay, this one is done. I'm going to move on to the next one. So there's string. There's character, and then finally there's compound. There we go. Alright, all those would come out just fine too. Alright. So, what I want to do is kind of do want an op class. We will have it store number of string parameters. There we go. No, I don't have any Trello boards. All my to-do lists are on paper. Parameter count, what's the other thing I was just adding? It's getting too late. I should finish this some other time. Yeah, okay, let's wrap this up. So, let me get this op class struct thing figured out, and then I will generate the stuff that I already have, and we'll call it a night, and we won't generate new stuff yet. That shouldn't be too far off, I don't think. So the other thing I was just thinking I needed to add was, we know how many parameters there are. Oh, we want to know what to iterate. Right. I don't think I have a LinkedIn profile. Or if I do, I don't know the link to it anymore. It might be in there somewhere. It also doesn't have any information from me out from the last, like, 5 years. Or 4 years or something like that. Okay. Operations, yeah. I don't know. I've never had any trouble finding jobs. They've always kind of just worked out. If I ever have someday find I'm having trouble finding a job, then maybe I'll take it more serious. But, yeah. I'm settled for now. Oh, I work at Rad Game Tools 4 days a week for my day job. We work on various sort of things. I mostly spend all my time working on internal applications for cataloging and searching, or like processing and searching their like database of email and stuff like that they have sitting around that they needed faster searching. They needed faster searching and viewing and decoding options for that. So I've been working on that for a while. I'm not sure how you mean how do I do it. I don't know. You just practice it and keep doing the things that work well and stop doing the things that don't work well, and then you get good. I don't know how else to explain it. Maybe if you had a more specific question. Yeah, okay. So, member needs to be that, and op class iterate I. Arrayif wants to know what CPP files to edit in 4coder to change key bindings. So, you have a couple of options. You can go to this file called remapping, I believe, yeah, and you can just change bindings right here, but this file will be basically every time a new 4coder comes out, it will be with the new version, and you'll have to somehow merge the changes that I made to it to the changes that you made to it. Another better option is that you make your own. Let me give you an example of that. Suppose you make like my bindings.cpp, and then you're going to include 4coder default include.cpp, and we can look at default bindings over here as an example actually. So we're going to basically make a file that looks exactly like this. No binding. That's a bit of a weird... I want to find out why that's all there later, because it's a little bit much. But you basically keep that part, don't worry about this part, don't worry about this part. Now you have a get bindings, and you can see right here it calls default keys or Mac default keys. What you can do is, whichever one of those you like, you find mapping and you find that default keys is this one right here, right? If I got it right, default keys. Wait. Default keys is this one. Oh, and that does call to that. Okay, just fill. I'm not sure why I would just call the fills. Maybe they get defined at a different time. So anyways, the point is, you go to remapping.h and you take those ones that you were looking at, and you can just copy that and put it in right here, right? And then go through here and say, alright, yeah, I'm going to keep the defaults the way they are, maybe. So I'm not actually going to rebind any of those. I'm just going to keep these begin maps, end maps, and I'm going to take these out. Maybe leave that one in there, I don't know. Well, actually we can take that out too. Right, and now we have the map set up, and then anything you want to change that's like a small tweak, if you're like, you know what, I don't like this binding here, I want to switch it. So you're like Alt-M and Alt-N. I actually want them to be opposites. Then you could just switch them right here. You also have the option of, in this code, just doing all the bindings and ignoring that one completely, right? Because what you could do here is default keys, right, context, and then change whatever things you want to change right here. Or you can copy that over here and just do your own thing completely. And then once you, whatever you do, it's up to you. You've got now this my bindings thing. So when you go to build your super layer, you can just do build super and then mybindings.cpp, right? Or build super and then the name of the file you created that has the get bindings function in it. Yeah, Ararif, a lot of the files aren't currently documented. Only the API is documented. I plan to fix that sometime soon. We're going to do a full round of documenting fully the entire system, not just the like boundary between the core and the customization layer. That way, questions like that will be easier for your people who are still finding their way through the code. Yeah, you notice in the paste color thing? Yeah, that's another one of my little inventions that I made while working on 4coder, which was dealing with the fact that, I don't know if you've seen this in other editors, but you can paste, and if you're pasting a big block of code a couple of times, like suppose you took this chunk of code and you were like paste, 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 it can get a little confusing where you're like, I'm not sure, because you paste, and I also have smooth scrolling that kind of helps with this too. But if it like jumps automatically and it looks the same as it did a moment ago, you can't tell if you actually pasted or not. So the paste fade is there to let you know for sure that you've done a paste, and then the smooth scrolling also kind of helps you to understand that things have changed. The other one that does that is undo. So if I do like that, and you can see undo does a purple fade. And then paste does the blue fade. And that's just for this theme. Every theme obviously does a different color fade that's appropriate. But anyway, what were we working on? What were we working on? This is all remapping stuff. I want to get back to one time. That's right, one time. Gonna wrap this up in the next few minutes, actually. This has become a super long stream, hasn't it? Alright. So, yeah, so we've defined all of the operations. We've defined... Let's see what happens if I try to build this. Member. Thought we undefined member. Oh, I misspelled it right there. Too many initializers. Too many initializers. Type names. Member. Type list. Type count. Value type list enum. R value type list member. Type count. I don't get how that's too many initializers. You'd have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I tell you you have an 8 and you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. How is that too many initializers? Explain. Oh, I see. I don't really have any open source projects that are open for contribution. What you can do I mean, you've seen most of the spots where you can see my work. I don't have any other like public Git things besides this one. What you can do is come here and fork any of these. Some interesting ones are Pinky, although that one's not really done. Buffer tests. Actually, a few people have forked that one before. This one's pretty fun. No one's forked it, but it's pretty fun. So this one is like a C implementation of this stuff, which is definitely a fun project to work on, if nothing else. I never quite got it looking this pretty, though. I should go back to it at some point and add in like the animations and the symmetry tiling and stuff. Anyway. Alright, so now let's get this to print some stuff. So what we're gonna do is we want to visit op class count. We want to visit all of those, and along the way we're going to do the following things. First, we switch on the op class. Well, let's take the op class equals that, or pointer to that. We switch on the op class iteration type. Op class iteration, or iterate, what's the one I have? Operation. And types, operations, okay. Well, really it's more like invalid path, and then yeah, I don't even have that. I'll just do nothing for now, it's fine. Operations, compound member, and config var. Yeah. Okay, so going back to config.cpp. Alright, let's wrap this up. So we see that we're iterating operations, so we do a loop over the operations. Okay. How much time it took to, what thing? What thing are you asking about? How much time did it take to build what? The 4coder? Yeah, we visit each one, and then we're going to config right. So this does the automatic iteration of that, and so then I'm going to just have to call switch on I case op class config var op class compound member. Alright. And then, let's see, up here we can do operation op equals operations plus plus op. So we're visiting all the operations, and then we decide what are we rendering out. and then we do it. And what we render out looks like this. I do want to start with a file out equals standard out. Fprintf out the following things: a static bool 32 followed by a config %s var parenthesis config string var name. We actually have to do that shit too. Yeah. Yep. Okay, we'll get to it. I'm gonna just do string var name for now. You know what, we're gonna take out string param count. And just do it that way for now. Okay, string var name int 32t subscript, and then what we're going to do is we're going to say, alright, if, I also have to do, you know, let's separate that from that. There's the default parameters, and before that we have the op proc name. If the op out type out output type does not equal 0, then we're going to output a pointer to that thing named var out, and then we're going to output, and that should come with a comma space before it. And then we're going to output extra params. Then finally we can output the close parenthesis brace new line, and there we go. We started the procedure. I'm going to create the end of the procedure right there. Right here we're going to have a return result, and right here we're going to have a bool 32 result equals config var name subscript. We need a type. Let's see, I guess right about here I'll introduce a line wrap. Oh, that's too soon. I'm going to introduce the line wrap all the way back here. %s on the config r value type. Type names. Which we get from type names op r type. and then var out. And then before that, we can print op before, and then we can print after. So, yeah, let's see if that builds. Okay, it builds. What happens when we run it? So we get a hasvar, boolvar, intvar, uintvar. We get a string var, a place string var. How does that one look? It's got a string var out, a space and a space size. Config, yeah. Gets a result. If that result is good, it says, oh, we're going to copy that into the space that we got right there. Compound. Yeah, cool. So now what we want to do is each of those, I'm going to pair it up again. Same exact stuff. That part is the same. This part's different. This part's the same. And the rest of it is quite different. Then what we do is we just do config %svar, and we pass in config var name. Oh shit, that's not gonna work. Alright, screw it. We're actually going to just copy all of this, and the only difference will be that var name looks like this, and then there's a bit of this. Alright, so now if we have done this all correctly, we now have config place string var. Yep, we have all of the ones that we have for config var working. Hopefully. We haven't actually pasted it in and see if it builds and runs correctly, but that looks good. Now we're going to do a very similar job on the compound var stuff. Compound has member, compound bool member, and so on. So let's grab a copy. Let's grab a copy of that. Config compound member config compound boom have to print f out var name index. Then if we have an output type, we put out that. If we have any extra parameters, we put out that. if we need to do extra code beforehand, then we don't do config var, we do config compound member, which takes a config, a compound, a var name, an index, and then that stuff. So then it takes one of those and a var out, like usual. And maybe we actually want a new line after the index. Okay. I'll break that up here too. Okay, and then perfect. Okay. Code after, return result, and that's going to config compound member. Okay. And then finally all of this, stop that. Finally all of this gets doubled up again as we put in a char star var name. Then we want one of these right here before the before code, and we put that down right there. Boom. And just like that, we are generating olive, that. So all we gotta do is just make sure that it actually still builds and runs correctly. Yeah, what you doing here, 4coder? Well, this is bad news. No idea. That's unusual. So, let me... Oh, I changed the project file so that... Yeah. I have to actually run it this way, don't I? Because, I changed the project file to the new system, but the editor I was just running was still running off the old... I have to rebuild the editor that I run in my build path. Alright, there we go. Config compound has member. Right, so you rely on that to exist, and it doesn't exist yet. Okay, we can fix this. Let me grab that, put it there. While I'm at it, I'm going to grab that and put it there. Then we're going to take both of these and put them after everything else instead of before. Right, okay. So we need to go over to one-time code, load this project. We need to look at one time. We need to say, okay, so yes, we always pass in var out, but that's not always necessarily correct. What we actually need to do is say take a %s, and then we'll say, look, if op output type is equal to 0, then actually put out the 0, otherwise put out the var out. Right? Okay, so I think that's good. Var out happens a couple of times though, so let's just track those down. And there we go. Var out. Var out. There we go. That looks even better. Hey, everything still works, right? That's going, that's not actually a crash, that's going. Okay, cool. So that's the basis of this meta generator. You go away. Get out of here, get out of here. And then, all this code can go. So the goal will be now, we're going to, not on stream, but sometime on my own, I'll build out this generator to also generate a few more types of operations for these two and for another one that I want to do that will make life a little better. and that way I have you know, all of the various wrappers and convenience things that I need to have, and I don't have to like do a bunch of work to write the like 100 lines of code that it is to do all these things. They just are all kind of controlled singly from one spot. I may have to move that into an official meta position at some point along the way, but there we go. Unfortunately, I lost the 4coder session that had the stream to do in it, so that's it for today. I've got nothing else to make progress on right now, and it's way too late anyway, so I will be wrapping it up, and I'll probably see you guys again next week. Bye-bye.